For years, I've driven past this rural property at the intersection of these two highways. I always noticed this building sitting there, very strange kind of looking pseudo-German construction. Fairly modern, but it looks more to me like it would be maybe a tavern, hotel, lodge sort of establishment. The property was abandoned for years and years. I saw a gas station moved in there for a little while and operated, and then that was gone, and it was abandoned then for many more years. And I drove past it one day, and it had been turned into a haunted attraction.
Our associate investigator, Ryan, brought us this case.
My name is Ryan. I've been actor at Wisconsin Scaryland for 3 years. Play the part of the butcher.
You can imagine my surprise when Ryan tells me, hey, I work at this haunted attraction, and there's rumors that it's actually haunted.
November 3rd, midnight.
So around about midnight, we go driving out in the middle of nowhere to this facility along with our investigator, Nick.
We got permission from the owner.
It turns out he actually had personal experiences in the building himself.
He just said, yeah, right away, absolutely.
And whatever happened to him caused him to flee from the building on a couple of occasions.
We arrive on the scene. We get all the equipment out of the car, and we go into the side of the place.
Because of our lack of understanding of the history of this building, we really don't know if there was an incident that would cause this building to be paranormally disturbed. A murder at the gas station, a bad accident outside.
Okay.
What was it before a gas station?
Make sure to tag audio at this point.
You walk in,
Weird creek.
the building is really, really dark, really large, and you could smell the
Can already
musty
smell mold.
mildew right away. And
All right, I locked the door. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I remember feeling a bit
I
uneasy
did leave some of the lighting
since
on
I had
for
never
us.
been there and I didn't know the layout and I didn't know the
There
neighbors.
better not be people hiding in the fucking building.
Oh, let's not even bring that up.
This is the elevator.
Weird elevator, extremely disliked by me.
We go through the entryway through what they call the elevator.
I remember walking through the elevator and feeling really uneasy because ground is not supposed to move from underneath you. Sloping.
Very first thing we
Down.
notice is that there's even a haunted house soundtrack playing in the background coming from upstairs that apparently was left on.
It's just a CD put on repeat.
Having the CD run in the background was pretty annoying, but it was pretty easy to rule out the CD as contamination because I was able to get a copy of it.
We ended up actually getting a copy of it, and we were able to rule out any of the contamination that may have come out of there.
We noticed right away that the power's on in the building, so we prepare to do our EMF sweep and walk through this property, which none of us have ever been at, except for Ryan, obviously.
Now, this place was huge. It was a big old building with a warehouse on it.
Leave it to Wisconsin to have something like this.
The building is deceptive. It looks really large from the outside, but it's massive from the inside.
3 floors, all indoor.
20,000 square feet of basically maze. And at this time, I fire up a voice recorder. Recording on the outdoor control mic.
We have a control mic, which is a stationary mic that no one touches. It just sits there.
and send Tom outside with it to place it on my car so that we can rule out outside contamination.
Walk back out through the building, unlock the door, go outside, and mark placing the voice recorder on the roof of the car.
Setting the recorder down on the roof of the car.
I return into the building, shut the door behind me,
I just heard a thud. Must be the door outside closing.
and lock it.
He does. He'll be on the lookout. That's just the monkey prop.
And then I proceed back into the lobby through this elevator area to the lobby where the rest of the team is.
We go on with the investigation. None of the team understood how pivotal of a moment that was.
After this, unbeknownst to us, our control mic outside, right from the very beginning, starts recording all sorts of weird, anomalous noises.
Doing investigations for years with Tom, we've definitely noticed most of the time when we get activity, we'll get these pops right in the audio channel. And in this case here, we get a series of pronounced frequency pops, one after another. We got more frequency pops and digital artifacts than I've ever seen in one audio channel before at one time. It got my attention right away.
That might be Rex. Do you
Yeah,
have
we
Rex?
got Rex right there.
We set up Rex and left the second control mic in the lobby to monitor sounds in there.
Noticing some dust.
I can say, on a side note, where's the mask? Walking through the building, I felt mostly comfortable. But I felt mostly comfortable when I had one person in front of me and one person behind me.
We start our EMF sweep and
Bad thing about these masks is that they fog up my glasses.
walk through the building.
Choose between being able to breathe or being able to see.
And right around the entrance area, we did catch an EVP.
We didn't know it, but at this moment, I'm following Ryan. Nick's following me with a camera. I have a voice recorder. Tom's behind her. My voice recorder picks up an anomalous voice. Doesn't make any sense at all that it is not recorded on Nick's camera audio right behind me.
It didn't show up on my wrist recorder, so I know it wasn't me.
Our second control mic in the lobby did not pick up this sound either.
It just showed up on that voice recorder, which is really odd. And what's even more odd is we didn't even hear it with our own ears. Be a lot of creaking.
We head up the stairs. Ryan, who's an employee of this place, starts telling us of some of the experiences the employees have had.
So this is the first hotspot here.
This actress that works for Scaryland was in this reception area, and the overhead light turned on and off. These are lights that they don't normally even use. There was a static charge that filled the room, and her hair on her arms stood up.
Once I talked to my coworker and heard the fear in her voice and the confusion, I'm like, no, this is real. This is something we gotta look into. You know, it took a lot of courage for that girl to come out with these claims. That's really what triggered all of this.
We proceed.
That's scary. Alright, there's a door. That's apparently locked, so we gotta go another way.
We're upstairs. And Ryan notices a spike on the millimeter he has.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just got a spike, 5.2.
You had 5.2.
Yeah.
Is at the same time he got this EMF hit, one of the security radios down in the lobby turns on in channel mode.
We later actually went back to this property and looked at the CBs that they used there to see if we could reproduce this in any way.
Which roof is? That's the sound.
Exactly it.
Yep. I researched the model number.
One of our theories that we tested is if one of them was left on in the cradle,
It's on.
maybe it would trigger a power on signal, which is basically what that channel mode is.
To see if maybe when it charges up, it would flick on by itself. But to the best of our ability, we were unable to duplicate a CB being able to turn on autonomously in announced channel mode.
It can only do that if it's physically turned on by the knob on the top.
Can you reproduce this?
Using my flashlight.
Meanwhile, our control mic on the roof of my car is continuing to pick up these weird movement noises.
Clicks, taps, and sundry movement noises that it just records.
The snaps, the crackles, and the pops, to me, it sounds like someone hitting flint together to create a spark to try to start a fire.
There were no overhanging trees. The car was sitting in an open area 10 feet away from the front door with nothing around it.
It was calm outside, it wasn't raining. There's no reason for those sounds. Really bizarre.
As we were doing our EMF sweep, we documented large EMF fields coming off the emergency lighting throughout the building.
And then the emergency exit lights.
That's the reason why we do the sweep, so we can identify these things and know where we should expect EMF and where we should.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just got a spike, 5.2.
You had 5.2.
Yeah. Kinda going backwards here, but don't tell me this guy's working. Nope.
What happens if it works?
He shoots out of bed and he
Oh.
spits water at you.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm
Well.
glad that's
And
disengaged.
it is not very good smelling water either.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear that
Wait.
soundtrack so we're getting...
It's trying to fire.
We're following our guide around in this labyrinth of rooms,
So I would just move on by.
corridors, and passageways. Start noticing,
Well, mind you, we're going through backwards now because I got turned around.
man, does Ryan really even know where he's going?
So this is the way we were supposed to come through the first time. Maybe.
Ryan, who worked at this place,
Which way are we supposed to go?
Maze.
has become very
Yeah, we might
disoriented.
have to just head back the way we came because
We met dead end after dead
I
end.
don't remember this being a dead end ever. I don't know what was going on with me that night.
Fuck!
Ryan knows the inside of this building. He works there.
At least it didn't move.
And for him to suddenly become disoriented like that, he shouldn't have gotten lost. Was he being affected by whatever's here in this building?
Our control mic outside on the roof of my car records a series of other strange noises. I went ahead and enhanced the audio. these noises almost sound like a friction under stress sort of sound. I have no idea what would be causing these sorts of things. Some very consistent noises. They seem very close to the mic, most of them. You don't hear any sort of animal scurrying or animal-like vocalizations going on. It's just the noises.
We leave the other two behind. I think we did.
You guys doing okay? What was that?
That's the noises right behind us.
Okay.
On our walkthrough, we finally make it to this place called the Chapel.
And here it is. This room personally gives me the creeps.
Yes.
Finally, we get to this room that Ryan's boss, Guy, was chased out of on a couple of occasions.
It does feel somewhat colder in here.
We did notice its unique
It
character.
does have it has more of a draft. It smells like old perfume.
64 degrees in here.
The room was about 2 to 4 degrees cooler than the rest of the building. It seemed to have a sort of draft, an odd odor, and it was sort of musty.
It smells like amber in here.
It's a weird room, for sure.
We do our EMF sweep, and this chapel area is completely EMF neutral.
Our baseline is 0.
It seemed like it would be a good place just to keep an eye on.
This is the other room that is reportedly very strange.
The perfume makes my eyes kind of sting. Makes my head, I feel a little more lightheaded.
One of the things about large EMF fields is that it will affect the frontal lobe
There
of
is a
somebody's
lot of
brain.
wires going through this
They
place.
can have auditory hallucinations,
Wait. Okay.
up to visual hallucinations, general feelings of unease, which is why we need to identify this.
But it's not just the scientific field, it's an emotional field as well, and it's a psychological field in addition to that.
Takes us through the whole upstairs. He takes us through the whole downstairs.
64.7 down here.
And as we're walking around downstairs in the basement, we did find an area around this broken wall and a corridor where there was a distinct sense of unease.
This is the only part that's made me feel panicky so far.
Nick pointed it out first.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I didn't allow myself to react in the situation. I just kind of walked on through and tried to ignore it.
Around behind that, there's also a big cavernous concrete room flooded with this sort of sludgy water that
Oh, yep. No, fuck that.
does not look good. Apparently, the company there cannot get rid of the flooding. They can't stop it from
Now, this
leaking.
is the creepy room that guy was talking about. I never saw it before.
Is that all water?
Yeah, that's all water there.
It's kind of a curious thing, you know. They have to keep a dehumidifier and fans running on this thing,
7.8 degrees there.
and I did feel a distinct pull towards it.
Yeah, that's pretty
I don't
deep.
know what kind of bacteria is in that water.
This water is nasty.
Our control mic outside records more movement sounds, more and varied noises.
Again, no one outside.
It's almost like the area around the entrance is unsettled.
things are starting to shake loose. Place seems to be becoming more and more active as we're there.
Alright. So anyway,
We proceed on with our sweep through the rest of the basement. One of the curiosities we passed by is this studio prop in which Ryan says that a coworker of his had noted on several occasions this prop being moved around in different places. So Ryan goes up and checks it, and it's like bolted to the wall.
There are nights where he would swear that the Medusa mannequin that secured to the wall was moved in a different position, it wasn't up against that wall, and he can't explain it.
Mannequins. Great. We press on.
We turn a corner.
Oh, there's a strobe light ahead.
We've got some
Stopped in our tracks
demonic sigils spray painted on this.
because we realized that we are suddenly in a room that has demonic sigils painted on all the walls.
Ryan takes us through this small room that has a coffin in it, the vampire that pops up.
Well, that clicking is just that guy supposed to pop up.
Thankfully wasn't engaged. See these demonic sigils boldly, accurately spray painted on the walls, where the patrons get the crap scared out of them. I made note of that right away. Was pretty alarming.
That helped with the design was really into the cult.
I was able to identify a number of them. These are real symbols that have been used for hundreds of thousands of years in some cases. Putting up the sigil of a goetic demon on your wall is going to lead to strange stuff, for sure.
I dug deeper. I talked to the guy who painted the room. He knew that these certain symbols had certain meanings. He might have stirred up some trouble unintentionally.
We continue our walk.
Go through the room that Ryan does his performance in, which he had an experience in.
One night before a show, this light anomaly that took the form of just the head and shoulders of a human torso just floated right in front of me like someone was walking in front of me. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. It didn't make any sound. It was completely silent.
Yeah, I could tell he was pretty rattled about the experience.
Like, if it was a solid being, I could have reached out and gave it a tap on the shoulder.
Ryan takes us through the carnival area,
Every time I thought we were getting close to the end,
go through the fun house,
I just kept going
Now I feel like we're on the set of Killer Clowns.
and going and going.
go all the way through the cemetery. Just as we're about the furthest we could be from the entrance of the building, the control mic outside is recording a fury of synthetic, unexplained sounds. The noises are getting louder.
And more sustained.
Finally, after some 90 plus minutes, we make it through this walkthrough.
This is the actual exit outside.
Yeah, this is the actual end of the show.
It dumps us outside.
Yep.
Remember, the front door's locked.
Yeah, but this will not lock behind us. It's just a deadbolt.
I get assured that the door won't lock behind us. We go outside. Just kind of catch our breath.
So we want to put a static cam in the chapel.
I'm hearing some sort of bird.
Yeah, maybe an owl.
At least there's no damn coyotes.
Ooh. Yeah.
right after I make that statement, coyotes have reared their ugly head. Oh,
You don't like coyotes, do you?
yeah, I don't like them anymore. The sounds they make are terrifying. They scare the crap out of me.
We're really close.
Yep. That's why I'm going inside. So yeah, I was in a hurry to get inside after that.
You know, we finally finished this walkthrough after 90 plus minutes. I mean, we haven't even begun investigating yet. Because we know the front door is locked, we have to go all the way back through this attraction to get back to the lobby to actually begin our setup.
We walk all the way back through the attraction. And we get back to the door by where the car's parked.
And it was the first one to that side door that we were
We're
using.
at the front. We locked the door back there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
She walks up to the door,
The front door was open.
Oh, right.
and it
I
just
just
pushes
pushed on it
open.
and it was open.
Door was unlocked.
Well, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's really not great.
Now, at this point, our investigation hits the rocks.
I'm gonna go check the stuff.
We all realized he must have forgot to lock it. There's no reason why that door should be locked. I feel that everybody chalked it up to a mistake.
Definitely have to be analyzed.
Tom
All makes sense.
was the only one that went outside to put that mic out there.
I don't feel comfortable continuing with this.
I know I locked that door.
I just heard a thud. Must be the door outside.
This will determine if he's got any props.
How did this door get unlocked?
As we do our evidence review, it's like peeling an onion. More and more layers of the weird just start appearing.
Not only do we know that Tom locked the door,
I just heard a thud. Must be the door outside.
but we know that Tom was nowhere near the door at the time the lock was unlocked. Because we noticed you hear the deadbolt click
I
twice.
just heard a thud.
You hear
Must be
it
the
first
door
time,
outside.
the door's locked, but just before the second time, you hear in the background
Determine if he's got any
Tom stomping back through the elevator.
He does. We'll be on the lookout. That's just the monkey prop.
You hear that first step, boom. And then you hear the click. The door unlocks, and Tom is nowhere near it.
I didn't hear it because it's just so noisy in that elevator thing when you're walking through it.
Brian and I went back to try to debunk this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the noise.
We did go back and we tried
Yeah, we got
everything from making the lock to the point where it's almost unlocked.
Right there. We're stomping into the elevator.
We stomped around, we shook the door, we banged the door, and it still stood solid. Right.
I mean, we could not get this lock to fall open on its own, no matter what we did. It's a good sticky deadbolt.
Point. That's all. So hard.
And there's
Yeah,
no
that's what I'm
way
saying.
that that thing came
Really
unlocked
gotta put
on its
some force
own.
into it. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera.
And we know for a fact
Tom is all the way over there.
that Tom was close to 10 feet away in the
Through
elevator
a small corridor, and there's Ryan standing in the elevator. Wave. Why don't
at
you
the
stop
time.
in the
You hear the
elevator?
stroke of the deadbolt click.
Unless Tom somehow developed the powers of Mr. Fantastic and could stretch his arm 10 feet. That's just the monkey prop. How could he have possibly been responsible for it, you know?
But even more has yet to unravel. The camera audio in the lobby. Careful analysis with headphones on reveals that
Check out this super creepy
you can
head.
hear an unexplained
Oh,
voice
this creepy
speak
head.
3 syllables right before Tom closes that door.
I just heard a thud.
Unless you have headphones on, you're not going to hear this, so I enhance the audio.
I just heard a thud.
It's a good, strong voice. You can see it right in the waveform.
I just heard a thud.
The voice recorder that we had running in the lobby also picked up this voice.
I just heard a thud.
Of course, Ryan's wrist recorder also picked up this voice, but none of us heard it.
I just heard a thud.
Is the paranormal entity asserting that it locked the door? We'd like to leave this up to our viewers.
We can't prove whether or not anybody went in and out of that door while we were gone.
So I proceeded on with the setup, and I head up to the chapel to set up the static cam. The chapel is where Ryan's boss had gotten so scared that he was chased from the building.
Alright, he's setting up the static cam in the chapel already, so.
We're downstairs having a debate
We're in a
whether or not to
situation where
essentially
the
continue.
investigation was compromised.
Definitely, the security of the building was compromised, and to that I'm sorry, guy, but this is not our fault.
You have a camera on the door?
Yeah, there's cameras everywhere around here.
We'd catch somebody that was going in. if
Yeah,
they went in.
we'd be
If we
able...
can prove that the investigation is not compromised, I will stay.
Alright.
Ryan says, hey, there's security cameras, we can tell if anybody came into the place.
And that was a stipulation of her staying.
Ryan's got the keys, but none of them are working in the door. We can't get into the room.
This isn't gonna work. It doesn't seem like it.
And I tried every key on that key ring, and none of them fit that lock. Me and Tom can set up here if you want to come down. I couldn't open it.
At that point, Nick was just done.
She wasn't comfortable with pushing forward with this.
Ryan hands the keys to Marty, and Marty takes Nick home.
Ultimately, what happened is whatever flipped that lock succeeded in what it was trying to do. It broke us up.
We haven't even begun the investigation, and everything has gone haywire.
I continue with the setup with Ryan's help. The control mic got moved from the top of Marty's car next to the key box outside, like right next to the parking lot, just so we wouldn't forget it. I gather up the voltmeter and the battery and the static field detectors and the camera that I'm going to put on the voltmeter for this experiment, because we want the footage of suddenly the voltage just going away on that battery. So I test to make sure it's working. Turns on fine, turn it back off, and head down to the basement to set up this experiment. But while we're doing this down in the basement, we start getting some pretty compelling evidence on the static cam that's set up in the chapel. The static cam starts to record movement noises. You can also hear the soundtrack still going. Anything that was that has already been ruled out as being noise contamination. It is not on that soundtrack. It's not us. It is purely unexplainable.
The sounds outside still continued, which can rule out any sounds that maybe like residual sounds from your car, like sometimes the motor will tick or whatever. Almost identical sounds, just more pronounced, louder. At that point, the sounds were following wherever the recorder was put. Something was definitely curious with that recorder.
We're in the basement. We get to the spot where I'm going to set up the experiment. Stack field detectors, the battery and the voltmeter, get everything in frame, and the camera's dead. It will not turn on. So we went upstairs, changed the batteries in the jazz camera, tested it again, took it down to the basement, started up just fine. Recorded for us for the rest of the investigation. And later, after we got back from the investigation, Marty tested these batteries with a voltmeter, and they still were fully charged batteries. What happened to the camera? Marty returns,
Got the red jazz on it. Turn it on up here.
comes in,
Battery bars went down there. One turn on.
we
Red one?
start formulating a plan of attack for the rest of the investigation.
Yeah, no, it was working fine, and then we got downstairs.
And turn off.
Yeah.
That's freaking bizarre.
So we go to the chapel to start an EVP session.
Our first EVP session of the night.
We just want to hang out in the chapel for a bit. Am I setting it off just being right here?
Yes. The beam goes from
From there,
right there.
we all sit down.
Alright, if this guy fucking moves, I'm out of here.
I wouldn't let you.
What's up, buddy?
We all have our pieces of equipment with us that we're monitoring.
Speaking to whatever's here that might have chased my boss out of the building. Start asking questions. Are you here with us now? I was sitting in one of the pews next to the mannequin with a millimeter. This building is, it's shrouded in mystery, and we'd like to learn more. Is there anything you can tell us?
Ryan asks if there's anything here,
If you're here, can you knock on something?
knock on something. Right after he asks this question, our static cam records just a quick tap tap. We didn't hear it at the time that he asked something to be knocked on, and our camera got tapped on. The response to his question.
I'm gonna leave the room for a minute. I'm gonna go see if there's a way I can turn that soundtrack off in the other room.
Okay.
I decided to get up and see if I could find a way to turn off that soundtrack. I got a 2.5 where I was sitting.
We've already established the baseline EMF in this room is 0.
Yeah, it's 61 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really? I got 64. Is that you around us right now?
As he's leaving the chapel,
Keep the camera with me.
going into this different area to find the CD player that this thing is playing
I'll
out.
be back.
He gets an EVP on his handy cam.
I think it's this way.
It only appears on the handy cam that he's carrying. Not his voice recorder on his wrist.
There was a static cam in the chapel and a voice recorder, and it wasn't caught on either one of those devices either.
It's just on his one piece of equipment. The only thing we could really make out is we think the last word in it is chapel. It's like something something chapel.
You can hear it reverberate in the room, and it has vocal tone.
Physically, I didn't hear it, but on the camera, it sounds like it was speaking pretty much directly into the camera.
Make that little device light up.
Ryan returns, not being able to find the CD player that's gone with the soundtrack on it.
I was unsuccessful.
Doesn't sound like he was able to find the soundtrack.
But I stubbed my toe and got a EVP on you guys.
So you set off the screamy thing up here?
Yeah, that was me. I came back. Marty
Find it.
then went to track down the device playing the sound and was able to find it and turn it off.
We decide it's time to split up while we're in the chapel.
I'm gonna go head off downstairs.
At this point, Tom goes downstairs to do a solo investigation in the basement.
All right. Tom's solo investigation to the basement.
And he isn't gone long. He ends up coming right back up to us
Look out, there's somebody behind you.
with the camera that's dead.
No, camera's done.
We just ran out of batteries.
When I started, it said I had another 153 minutes.
Early.
Down by the broken wall?
Yeah. Right around where the jazz camera was drained out. So, just shut off.
That's really weird.
It's completely drained.
Yeah, it's drained.
Fully charged battery, we've seen those things run for 8 hours.
Suddenly,
At least 5 or 6.
Ryan gets
I just got an 80-degree spike on the millimeter.
What?
an 80
Yeah.
degree reading
The temperature said 80 degrees.
Yeah, it's at 70 now, it's dropping.
on the millimeter he had.
Camera.
Sorry.
A 15 degree increase in temperature just suddenly, and then we were able to document the temperature starting to roll back down to what it should have been.
65, back to normal.
Did you have it sitting on your lap or anything?
No, I've been holding it like this the whole time. Something just walked past me.
Weird thermal pocket. Go over to that run pod and set it off.
It's back down to normal. So maybe we should move the investigation downstairs?
I want to see this area this is happening.
So we head down to the basement, continue our EVP session.
So 2 cameras, same spot of the building. I'm starting to get suspicious at this point.
As we were coming down the stairs, and in the midst of all this noise, we get an EVP on the jazz camera. And at the same time, Ryan gets a reading on his millimeter.
At 3.4?
And
Yeah.
because we had audio sources with us at the time, we know it was none of us that said what was recorded on the jazz camera.
Unfortunately, terrible audio on these cheap little cameras. We only really use these to monitor equipment with, but I just couldn't deny that there was a vocal tone here. And it must have been somewhere out there close to where that battery experiment was. And what I hear in there is a reference possibly to our team member Ryan, who works in that building.
Ooh, I got a 3.4.
Ryan's here.
At 3.4?
Yeah.
We work our way through the basement a little bit,
So this is the
sort of look at this area that the cameras are dying in, right around where our battery experiment was.
Went back by where it looks like it's broken away brick, and we're getting all the continual sounds outside. We did go back to do some debunking. We placed the control mic outside again, and we did not get any of those sounds.
We went inside, conducted our business for several hours, and we didn't record any of these odd noises. It was exclusive to this investigation.
And it continued like that the whole night. Really bizarre.
Who are you?
Inevitably, Ryan and I are drawn to this mysterious flooded room that they keep cordoned off. Turn off the fan and start asking questions.
Is that you that keeps on draining our camera batteries?
It seems like as soon as we decided to concentrate on the basement, things start getting really weird in the chapel.
The camera catches the sound of a plastic switch snapping, and then a few seconds later, snapping again. The only device with a switch like that would have been our shadow detector, which had been set up earlier to catch any movement coming through the chapel around where our REM pod was.
Can you help us solve the mystery of what happened here?
At this point, the REM pod starts going off.
We really just want to talk to you. It goes on for a while. It was steady. Something had to cross that field, and what's weird about that is nothing set off the shadow detector.
There's only two positions on the switch, on and off. And indeed, because we know when Tom picked up the equipment at the end of the night, that shadow detector was engaged. We can surmise that this paranormal entity was intelligent enough to turn our shadow detector off so that it could slip by that infrared light beam set up in front of our REM pod and then switch it back on again.
Prove to us that you're here.
We're asking in so many words if it could just give us a sign of its presence.
One little noise.
And our control mic outside ultimately records this huge, kinetic, violent,
What sounds like one of the big 55-gallon drums outside being hit.
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel uneasy.
Upon returning to the site with Ryan, I examined these metal barrels.
We did kick it.
Metal barrel?
The most we got was a light gong out of it. This, it sounded like some just picked it up and just spiked it to the ground. Alright. I say we move on.
As we're all downstairs,
Engage that fan there.
Our static cam records this weird, anomalous humming, weeping.
It took headphones to be able to hear this, so I enhanced the audio.
No real discernible words, really, but it is a disembodied voice because there's no one up there.
This is a very unusual recording.
Definitely weird.
Like all the stuff that happened that night, we heard none of these noises. We heard none of the voices. We didn't know what happened to the lock. We didn't know what happened at all.
He does.
It took days to put all this together to realize everything that was actually happening behind our back.
At that time, I really don't know what to make of it. We started wrapping up the investigation.
We gather up the equipment down there.
6.32.
Still going, yeah.
Go up, gather up the equipment in the chapel, pack everything up, and call it a day.
I actually ended up taking a seat. I felt physically drained and somewhat disappointed, like we walked away with nothing.
The following day, when the owner came in, the mystery continues.
So my boss said that the fogger behind the cashier's desk, that fogger was evidently on, and a prop downstairs in the cemetery was apparently on, but we walked through the cemetery and there was absolutely nothing on at the time.
There was
So that's definitely weird.
equipment turned on that we never touched.
No, we didn't touch nothing.
If you're here, can you knock on something? It was definitely a sense of mischief going on that entire night. It was just right behind us pulling tricks and we didn't catch it. When you look at all the evidence, my co-worker's experience upstairs with the light, to mannequins apparently moving on their own, two completely different cameras getting drained or getting their power blocked twice in one night in the same area. That's too much to be coincidence in my eyes.
We did record these disembodied voices.
The movement noises and these noises that we keep recording outside.
Just the weirdest bunch of noises. And they happened all night long.
The REM pod going off.
What the hell was it? That's what I want to know. I just got an 80-degree spike. An almost 20-degree spike? Yeah. How does that happen?
The temperature said 80 degrees?
Yeah, it's at 70 now, it's dropping.
I've never seen it do that before. This is said to be common with spirits that are unusually powerful.
There's a strobe light ahead.
The sigils painted in the room in the basement.
Demonic.
I've come to the
symbols
conclusion
painted on this.
there's most likely some type of demonic entity in this building.
It's always been an ongoing thing that the building was haunted, but it wasn't until this year, after those sigils were painted on the walls downstairs, that things started to get more serious.
That perhaps somehow those demonic names have been brought to life by the perpetual fear of patron after patron walking through that room being frightened. And that moment of terror goes on to feed whatever this is. And now it's powerful. And it's strong enough to kick the crap out of that metal barrel.
Like this perfect storm of fear and negative emotions throughout this entire building. It was shocking.
Scaryland turned out to be really scary.
I don't want to believe anything is there of ill intent. Because quite honestly, that scares the I gotta go back there and work next year. You know.
Also, the effect on the team.
So this is the way we were supposed to come through.
I think that what occurred at Scaryland was so traumatic for me, I blocked out certain bits, but I remember
This is the
feeling
only part that's made me feel panicky so far.
the severity of this
The front door
building
was open.
hit me.
I just pushed on it and it was open.
It broke up our team. That it almost ended the investigation.
Yeah, that's really not great.
You could really feel the tension in the air kind of pick up right after that.
Where it was able to play the strategic tricks, you know, cause the maximum amount of stress.
You can look at it and you can review it and you can say this is what happened, but there's still that human instinct of thinking it's not possible or having a shadow of doubt over you because your gut instinct is saying something else or you don't want to wrap your head around it and confront it.
Oh, yep. No, fuck that.
This thing obviously has the ability to affect its physical environment.
This is a door lock, a heavy deadbolt being thrown open on its own. What would ever stop it from pushing someone down the stairs? Other than its own conscience.
I think the dangers are more along the lines of being spiritual in nature.
It's left an indelible mark on my mind. For as long as I live, I will never forget doing that investigation.
It is truly a haunted house. It's not just a gimmick anymore.
I may not ever set foot on that property again.
This thing is malicious, but it more wants to ruin somebody's personal life than hurt somebody. It's not a mouse.